Over his decades-long career in public service, Mr. Steven A. Grossman has contributed to crucial advancements in public health and regulatory science, especially the patient and research advocacy space. Steven is a tireless advocate for the FDA. He co-founded the Alliance for a Stronger FDA, which has worked to ensure FDA has the funding that it needs as it grows with its mission. Steven has played crucial roles in the development and passage of transformative legislation, including the Orphan Drug Act of 1983 and Hatch-Waxman. We are honored to recognize him this evening. Protecting public health is at the core of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration's mission. More than 20 cents of every dollar consumers spend in the United States is an FDA-regulated product. But despite the FDA's far-reaching impact, the agency has not always had funding to reflect its vast and growing responsibilities. In the early 2000s, the FDA was facing a looming challenge: chronic underfunding. Though the agency was taking on expansive new projects in critical areas like medical products and food safety, its budget continued to lag. Witnessing the gulf between FDA's growing responsibilities and insufficient funding, a collection of voices raised concerns about how underfunding would jeopardize the agency's future, and most importantly, its ability to meet the needs of the American public. In April 2006, Steven A. Grossman co-founded the Alliance for a Stronger FDA, along with Nancy Myers, Wayne Pines, Ladd Wiley, and the late Diane Foreman, as a community-wide response to the FDA's underfunding. The Alliance, which brought together diverse stakeholders from across the FDA, offered a powerful and unified voice to underscore the agency's crucial role and call for appropriately robust funding. At a time when FDA's detractors were in abundance, the Alliance stepped up, not only to advocate for the agency's mission and funding, but to translate its work into a compelling story that everyone could understand and support. In his role as co-founder and executive director of the Alliance, Mr. Grossman has brought his own expertise in public service, including many years in the patient and research advocacy communities and almost 3 decades in policy and government. Over its nearly 20-year history, the Alliance has harnessed the power of community to strengthen FDA's funding, bringing together different stakeholders, from patient representatives and consumer groups to trade groups and industry, to ensure that a growing FDA had congressional appropriations that grows with it. They've worked to educate policymakers, the media, and the public about the agency's expanding mission and increasing responsibilities, helping audiences understand how the FDA and FDA-regulated products impact their everyday lives. The Alliance's work has contributed to the FDA's taxpayer funding doubling from $1.6 billion to $3.2 billion per year. In December of 2024, Mr. Grossman will step down from his role as executive director of the Alliance. The Foundation is pleased to honor his work tonight. I am proud to present this year's Innovation in Regulatory Science Advocacy Policy Award to Mr. Steven A. Grossman. Congratulations.
Can you do a picture for her?
There we go.
Who takes this?
You could set it on the table.
Oh, thank you. Can I get a receipt for it?
No.
Thank you. They didn't use a photograph that I gave them that I really was hoping they would use. It's a big wooden horseshoe. And I was going to ask how many people actually knew what it was. And it's Steven Grossman on a auto signature machine from the 1980s. Now, had they shown that, who here would have known what it was? Okay, we got a few. Thank you. So I want to thank the The foundation, you've become really critical to regulatory science and pivotal to the creation of a stronger FDA, and so it's especially to be honored by you guys, very important to me. I want to make sure that I thank my family or I'll get hell. I had a couple of points because it's a microphone. How can I help? The first is that good things are never the product of one person. In the case of the Alliance for a Stronger FDA, it was a very iffy proposition in 2006. I don't know that anybody here except those who were there understand how iffy it really was at the beginning. What mattered was that Nancy Myers, Wayne Pine, and Diane Norman had the foresight, and I need to add the bravery, to sign the incorporation papers and become the first board of directors. Ladd Wiley came along shortly thereafter, and that was the core. The Alliance could not have come about without all of us. That's just the way it works. And the same can be said about my earlier time in the Senate. Congressman Waxman and Senator Hatch believed in bipartisan legislation. Yes, that's important. But even so, it doesn't happen without the FDA stakeholder community. Staff like me, patient and consumer advocates, researchers, associations, and companies. That's what made it happen. And so one of my points that's very important, we need to keep that communal spirit. We need to make sure that we're working together, because there's only one FDA, it's what matters, and if we're split, we just don't have the voice that we need to overcome the many barriers, I guess. Let's just keep it at that and keep it politic. The second thing I want to talk about is throughout my career, I've heard prophets of doom claim that biopharmaceutical innovation would dry up because all the low-hanging fruit had been picked. It's a crazy notion, but remarkably persistent. I last saw a reference to the low-hanging fruit earlier this year in a letter to a journal editor, so it really is still around. What I see instead is progress. Today's groundbreaking accomplishments are eventually seen as yesterday's low-hanging fruit. We never quite know what is coming next, yet we keep managing to climb the tree of pharmaceutical innovation, continuously redefining upward the meaning of low-hanging fruit. We need to preserve that. There's also been less heralded, but a lot of progress in innovation and food safety. And together the message is FDA. It has to keep growing and learning. As part of that, regulatory science needs to evolve as a tool that can help us resolve ever sophisticated medical, scientific, and food safety questions. I hope we continue. I assume by being here that all of you are supporters of regulatory science. It's possible that maybe 10 more people than those who are here understand regulatory science. So we really have to keep the home fires burning on this one, guys. As most of you know, I'm just going to end with a personal note. As most of you know, I'll be leaving the Alliance after 18 years. Many of you know me only through my writing, and in the new year, I look forward to writing more broadly than just the Alliance topics about FDA and sharing it with the community. I'm also looking for the next opportunity to draw the stakeholder community together to make large and meaningful differences. Maybe that's Hatch-Waxman 2.0. Maybe that's food additive user fees. But we need to keep seeing FDA as both large and a vehicle for both large and small changes. And it starts with the community saying, we're going to stick together, we're going to find our objectives, and we're going to work together for them. And in the end, that's the message. Let's keep working together as a community. Thank you.